morning and welcome to our annual Blessing of the Animals service. My name is Cassie Winters and I will be your worship associate this morning. You might remember that it was the Blessing of the Animals service that brought me through these doors, or these virtual doors, just over 5 years ago. Since that time, I've witnessed so much joy, not only from all of you, but from your animal companions as well, as we join together in the sanctuary and afterwards in Forbes Hall and the courtyard. I have so many fond memories from those services. I'll never forget when Ian brought his little teeny tiny shrimp to be blessed. I won't forget how I invited a person from my neighborhood to join us and how I received a letter from her 2 weeks later saying how grateful she was that she had come because her beloved companion had since passed away unexpectedly. After several years of doing this, I am keenly aware of the pets we have blessed, who we are now remembering after their passing. I'm also aware of new loves that have entered our community. In fact, worldwide, people rushed to foster animals that were in shelters when everything was closing due to the pandemic. These foster situations often turned into adoptions as time went on, and we found ourselves looking for companionship during our long isolation. Rescue organizations tell us that successful adoptions have skyrocketed, and in many places there are long waiting lines to adopt a furry friend. Another positive effect from the pandemic is the increase in sales for companies like Beyond Meat. When some companies had to close due to COVID outbreaks in their facilities and there was a shortage of meat, more people than ever began trying alternatives to meat. My hope is that as we try new things and really contemplate some of the practices that invited viruses from animals to transfer to humans and the severe consequences of that we will be more conscientious in not only our food choices, but our treatment of all the animals that share this planet with us. Lastly, I'd like to read this poem by Ian Riddell called The Calling of the Creatures to get us started on our Blessing of the Animals. Come hoof and trunk and tail and horn and paw and wing and claw. Come bird and reptile, mammal born, all full of nature's law. Bring bark and crow and ribbit too, and silent stare and hiss. Bring purr and trill and warble too, and voice no ear can miss. We gather here each life and all to celebrate and sing, to honor creature large and small. 'Tis holiness we bring. This morning we light the chalice with a Native American prayer by Victor Furman. If you have a chalice near you, I invite you to light it now. O Great Spirit, I give you thanks for creating all of the peoples, two-legged, four-legged, winged, and finned. May I learn the great lessons from each of these. From the cat, let me learn healing, clarity, and keen vision. From the bird, let me learn how to let my spirit soar. From the fish, let me learn tenacity and to overcome obstacles. From the horse, let me learn strength and freedom. And from the dog, let me learn faithfulness, courage, and unconditional love. May I walk, swim, and fly in harmony and balance with all of these.
My Lord, what a morning. My Lord, what a morning. Oh, my Lord, what a morning. When the stars begin to My Lord, what a morning! Oh, my Lord, what a morning! When the stars begin to fall, when the stars begin to fall. Don't quit all my worldly ways, join that heavenly band. Don't quit all my worldly ways, join that heavenly band. Oh, my Lord, what a morning! My Lord, what a morning! Oh, my Lord, what a morning! When the stars begin to fall, when the stars begin to fall.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community Church of Santa Monica. I'm the Reverend Jeremiah Kalendae, and I serve this congregation as its developmental minister. Our worship team, who you will be meeting throughout this service, is delighted to be joining you in our online sanctuary this morning. If you are new to our community, please know that though our church home is open and our building is closed, there are many ways to become involved in our community. We offer a multitude of programs to serve the needs of our congregation and to be of service to the larger world. If you're interested in learning more, please join us for our virtual visitor meetup after the service. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious movement with over 1,000 congregations that gather each week to inspire religious learning, provide religious education for our young people, care for those who are suffering, and promote justice and equality in our world. Our tradition arises from scripture and science, nature and philosophy, personal experience, and ancient traditions. We are guided by liberal religious principles that affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, that encourage a search for truth and meaning. We honor the mystery and wonder of our lives and affirm that we are all connected to one another and to that great interdependent web of all life. We are a welcoming community with a rich history of activism for women's rights, civil rights, the environment, and LGBTIAQ rights. We affirm a diversity of religious beliefs and philosophies of life and strive to dwell together in peace and goodwill and love. We invite you to join us in creating this beloved community. please visit our website at uusm.org or our online newsletter at news.uusm.org for more information about the activities of the church and ways to get involved. You may also want to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter on our website. As we begin this morning, we want to acknowledge that our church building and the homes of most of our members are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded land of the Tongva people who lived here and cared for this land for thousands of years. This land was stolen from the Tongva by colonial settlers. We recognize and mourn the often deadly harm inflicted on the indigenous peoples of this country. We lift up their grace, resilience, and relationship with the land. Come, now, let us worship together.
We celebrate the web of life, its magnitude we sing, for we can see divinity in every living thing. A fragment of the perfect whole in cactus and in quail, as much in tiny barnacle as in the great blue whale. Of ancient dreams we are the sum, our bones link stone to star, and bind our future worlds to come with worlds that were and are. Respect the water, land, and air which gave all creatures birth. Protect the lives of all that share the glory of the earth.
Love is the doctrine of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, thus do we covenant with each other.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung through every land by every tongue.
Good morning. This morning's story is going along with the theme of our service. It's about animals. Now, we all probably deal with lots of animals, whether it's pet hamsters or pet cats or dogs or iguanas, but there are also lots of animals out in the wild. Now, this story takes place not so very long ago in, well, I like to think California. Now, when this story starts, California is in a drought. Now, a drought is when there's not enough natural rain for plants to grow, or animals to drink, or even for people to drink. And so animals were scavenging for water anywhere they could. Now, someone had left a jug of water out in the middle of a field, and all of the birds quickly flocked to it. But this jug had a very high neck, and it was very narrow. And birds tried. The robin tried to stick their head in. Hummingbird thought maybe it could fly and stay still enough, but it couldn't. The wrens tried it. The bald eagles tried it, but no animal could quite get to the water. Now, the crow had been watching, as every other bird had tried all the different ways. And the crow looked around and thought, and looked around and thought, and looked around, and then spotted pebbles on the ground. And so as the last bird flitted off, thirsty and sadly unsuccessful, the crow picked up a pebble and dropped it into the jug, and picked up another pebble and dropped it in the jug, and kept going and going and going until there were so many pebbles that the water line had risen all the way to the top, and the crow could drink its fill, and so could the robin and the wren and the bald eagle. So by waiting, watching, and using her wit, the crow not only helped themselves, but helped all their friends. And that is our story for today.
Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return again, return again, return to the home of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you are, born and reborn again.
Our first reading this morning on the feast of Saint Francis of Assisi is from the theological reflections of the liberal and radical 13th century Christian mystic, Meister Eckhart. Apprehend God in all things, for God is in all things. Every single creature is so full of God and is a book about God. Every creature is a word of God. If I spend enough time with the tiniest creature, even a caterpillar, I would never have to prepare a sermon. So full of God is every creature. Let us remember our animals who have passed on from this life. We remember those who we lost in the wildfires, those who are lost to the industrial animal farming, and those who we've lost to the detrimental global impact of climate change and environmental destruction. We remember these many lives, countless beyond measure. And we also call to mind those closer to home, our companions of time past. Let us prepare in our hearts a place for all of these. I light this candle to memorialize all those who have been lost. who've passed on from this world. And you are invited to speak aloud the names of your animal companions who have died and to fill your spirits with their memories. I offer this reading, When Your Best Friend Has 4 or So Legs, by the Reverend Teresa I. Soto, in honor of all of these. What it means to have a pet is to love someone who speaks a language you do not. A dog will bow and prance, a cat will purr and blink, a guinea pig will giggle and squeak. These are friends. They are loves. It's kind of a surprise that you should love someone so much who would eat the butter on the table if they could get away with it, and get endless hair on the sofa when they aren't even supposed to be on the furniture. When they are called companion animals, it's such an open, tender truth. The comfort of fingers to fur and big, adoring eyes. These are friends, they are loves. They stretch our hearts and they fill them with their abundance of kindness. When they are gone, our hearts remain larger, though their absence leaves room for expanses of grief. Their love champions and companions us all. Now you are invited to welcome your animal companions to join you for this time of blessing them and other animals who are a part of our extended UUSM community. If they would prefer to run and hide or remain in some safe and cozy space, that's okay too. If you don't have any animal companions at home, bring to mind a creature that you love. It may be someone else's pet or an animal in nature. Let us welcome in our hearts this great communion of life, our special friends of the animal world, as we offer this ritual of blessing, adapted from the Reverend Laura Horton Ludwig. Humans, let's breathe deeply. And place your hands gently on your heart. Imagine how love flows into you up from the earth, down from the stars, flowing easily into your heart until your heart is full. Now let that love spill over and flow into your hands until you feel them full of love too. Still breathing that love into your heart, and with your hands overflowing with love, place your gentle hands on your animal friends. Imagine your love flowing into them. Or just set your hands down on your chair and imagine all that love flowing into the animals you love. Now please repeat after me to these animals. I bless you. I love you. I thank you for being exactly who you are. May I be a blessing to you blessing to me. Now you can give your animal a kiss or a stroke or a scratch and let them loose to play or sleep. Meanwhile, keep breathing that love into your heart. Now breathe that love out through your feet. Breathe it through the floor and into the ground, into the soil that runs deep and connects us to every place on earth. Send that love out to the creatures that crawl in the ground, all of our hidden friends, the insects and other creatures that crawl or walk or slither on the ground, the lizards and snakes, lions and elephants, and so many more, and to the creatures that live in the trees and soar in the sky, the squirrels and the birds and the jaguars, and the creatures that swim in the waters, fish of every kind, otters and whales, and creatures that swim so deep we have never even laid human eyes on them. To all these creatures, both known and unknown, let us say, I bless you. I love you. I thank you for being exactly who you are. May I be a blessing to you as you are a blessing to me. Now, I invite you to take one more deep breath and return to your natural breathing. May it be so. In honor of our blessing of the animals and the feast of St. Francis of Assisi this morning, our mindfulness prayer is adapted from the prayer of St. Francis of the Christian tradition. It will be followed by a few brief moments for silent meditation. You're invited into the spirit of mindfulness, meditation, and prayer. Become conscious of your breathing and allow it to bring you to a place of inward spaciousness, repose, and tranquility. Remain in this space and allow your breath to take you deeper into your heart. Feel it beating with all of life, and remember your unity with all of being. In this spirit, we pray these adapted words of St. Francis. O Spirit of all life, make us instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Spirit, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love, For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternity. Let us meditate now for a few minutes in the silence. Returning to our breath and a greater awareness, let us honor peace, love, pardon, faith, hope, light, and joy. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Long before I was an activist for the many causes that are so dear to my heart, I was an advocate for nature and all of her creatures. As a child, I spent many days wandering the forest at the end of my street amongst the bluebirds, crows, and owls, deer and squirrels, bullfrogs and honeybees, and other creatures large and small that made those woods their home. I was fortunate to grow up in the forest city in Ohio, where natural preserves wind their way through the city and suburbs and offer the splendor of nature for all to enjoy. This was my natural habitat when I was young, as I preferred it to the noise and sterility of our human settlements. I remember not quite understanding why we humans made such clear demarcations between civilization and nature. Were we not also nature? I, for one, preferred the oak and birch and waterways and creatures of the forests and fields to the world of home and school and, yes, church. Nature was my cathedral not made by human hands, and it was my refuge from the torments of growing up queer and poor. At home, I had many animal companions over the years. Multiple guinea pigs, a beagle Rottweiler, a Dalmatian, a bull mastiff, the sweetest little Italian greyhound, and a few feline friends. Like the forest at the end of my street and the woods that encircled northeastern Ohio, they too provided refuge from a world that was often too cruel and unforgiving. I have so many memories of pouring my heart out to my dogs because I knew they would listen and understand when no one else could. I learned empathy from my animal companions, and the wild animals of the forest taught me the serenity of the ways of nature and the interrelatedness of all things. As a child, I could not understand why anyone would harm nature or her creatures. I started a club with my friends when I was young, and we each took responsibility for helping the environment or animals. In some way, this may have been my first introduction to ministry and activism. By the time I was a teenager, I had begun to study Buddhism and was taught that an aspect of practicing mindfulness was actually piercing time and space to perceive the interdependence of all things. The common example in this tradition is to mindfully perceive a piece of paper. Now, when we contemplate a piece of paper in this way, we will see the forest from which the paper is derived, the ecological systems that support the trees in the forest, the rains that fed the trees, and the warm sunlight that nurtured their lives, all moving through space and time and being gradually transformed into that piece of paper. Now, eager to practice this new Buddhist superpower, and to my parents' great chagrin, I brought this new spiritual methodology to the dinner table. I remember the exact moment. I was sitting at the table eating one of my favorite meals, a chicken teriyaki stir fry, that I began to practice my mindfulness meditation. Looking deeply into my meal, I realized for the first time what exactly I was eating. I decided then and there that I enjoyed the broccoli just as much as the chicken, and I mean it was really about the sauce anyway, and decided I was no longer interested in meat, and I would be perfectly fine with just the broccoli, carrots, bell peppers, onions, and rice. Things didn't go quite as I was expecting, however, as this sudden perception infuriated my parents, and I was grounded for months simply for not wanting to eat meat. I was told I would get sick. I was disobeying the natural order of things. I was being insubordinate to my parents, and to top it all off, I was clearly offending God. Who would have thought that this new Buddhist superpower was that powerful? I, for one, had no idea. Certainly, everyone claimed this was a phase. I had not had an epiphany, and there was no way I was going to become a vegetarian and a radical animal rights activist while living under my parents' roof. Now, truth be told, at that point, I had never heard of vegetarianism or radical animal rights activism, but here I am, decades later, guilty as charged. For a millennia, us humans have been taught that we have been given dominion over the animals and the earth, and that they are to be dominated and subdued and used for our benefit. This mentality is deeply rooted in the Judeo-Christian religious tradition and our dominant cultural practices. The disregard for non-human life is a driving force behind the global climate crisis, the destruction of the rainforests, land and water degradation, biodiversity loss, coral reef degeneration, many of our leading causes of illness and death in the United States, and yes, pandemics. I was once told by two of my dear mentors in the ministry that the only subject I had to avoid discussing on Sunday mornings was animal rights. Though they were both animal rights activists, in their many years of ministry, they had learned that it was too controversial of a subject to discuss in church. But at this point, I think it would be morally irresponsible of me if I didn't explore such a topic with the people I love and serve in ministry. I believe we have a moral obligation to alleviate suffering wherever it is found, and to work to repair our relationship to the natural world and in the interdependent web of life. I believe we need to find ways to be better allies, not only to our marginalized and oppressed human siblings, but also the only communities on this planet that are truly voiceless. Each year, 72 billion land animals and over 1.2 trillion aquatic animals are killed for food all around the globe. That's about 3 billion of our fellow inhabitants on this beautiful planet being killed every single day. Now, I know you're aware of the cruelty of the industrial animal farming systems that make all of this possible. I don't expect that anyone is going to run out and become a radical animal rights activist or a vegetarian or a vegan. because I've been involved in this work for long enough to know better. What I think we can do is encourage positive changes in our relationships with other animals that are good for our health, our communities, our environment, and our animal friends. We have to begin to change the ways we are treating animals if we are to truly address the environmental crisis and the leading causes of illness and death in this country, and are to ward off future pandemics. We have to question how our religious and cultural conditioning to dominate, subdue, and use is threatening all life on this planet. A more hopeful future would be one where we practice an ever deeper respect for the interdependent web of all existence, and where we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of not just our fellow human beings, but of all beings on this planet. Some say this is a future goal, once we've learned to treat each other with equity and love. But, I believe in multitasking, and I believe that we may be surprised by our capacities to extend mindfulness, mercy, compassion, and love into our world. I've seen a revolution in the short time since my early days as one of those radical animal rights activists. I believe our future is bright, and we can all begin making the small changes that will ultimately have a large impact on our world. May this feast of St. Francis and blessing of the animals remind us not only of the many blessings our animal friends bring into our lives, but also the ways in which we can bless their lives too. One of the joys in the midst of this pandemic was adopting my little rescue kitten, Shira. Each day, she reminds me to rest, to play, to chill, to live in less of a hurry and without so many worries. Maybe if you feel so called, you might consider adopting or fostering a rescue animal to be your loving companion through these difficult days and beyond. Maybe you'll consider a mindfulness practice of buying only cruelty-free cosmetics and household products, or going meatless one day or more a week. Maybe you'll find ways to support those who are protecting endangered animals from poachers and habitat loss. Maybe you'll give up meat altogether or leave dairy and eggs off your grocery list. Maybe you'll refrain from supporting animal entertainment. Maybe you'll go bird watching or visit an animal sanctuary. My hope is that we each commit in some way to improving the lives of our animal friends and writing a better future for all life. I dedicate this message to the happiness and liberation of all sentient beings everywhere. May you have a blessed feast of St. Francis. Amen, and blessed be.
During the month of October, 50% of our offering will go to the UU Disaster Relief Fund. Our Disaster Relief Fund is part of a covenant between the UUA and congregations, between congregations who give generously and those in need, and with our community partners. Through aiding our congregations, their members, and their community partners, we are able to embody our faith and our values. Disasters impact our congregations and their communities with increasing rapidity. From natural disasters like wildfires that scorch everything in their path, and hurricanes that bring destruction through winds and water, to human-caused disasters like the collapsing infrastructure that we've seen in Flint, our congregations, our people, and our communities sustain the impact. Your donation to the UUA Disaster Relief Fund allows the UUA to respond flexibly on your behalf to tragedies that overtake us. With your donations, we are able to provide assistance to congregations, their members, and their communities. Some of the expenses Disaster Relief Fund grants can be used for are damage to congregations' buildings and relocation to temporary locations, damage to members' or friends' homes and relocation expenses, donations to local partner organizations that serve the community at large, particularly those who would not be eligible for other funding. Please give generously so that the UU Disaster Relief Fund can continue their important work. You can give with your smartphone. Text 844-982-0209 and put the amount you wish to donate in the body of the text, followed by the letters GCC. The first time you give in this way, you'll be asked to set it up. After that, it will be simple. 844-982-0209. For more information on giving, you can focus your phone camera on the QR code in the corner of the screen. Your generous contributions will be gratefully accepted. Thank you.
Where my free spirit onward leads, well, there shall be my way. By my own light illumined, I've journeyed night and day. My age a time-worn cloak I wear, as once I wore my youth. I celebrate life's mystery. I celebrate death's truth. My family is not confined to mother, mate, and child, but it includes all creatures, be they tame or be they wild. My family upon this earth includes all living things, on land or in the ocean deep, or borne aloft on wings. The ever-spinning universe, well, there shall be my home. I sing and spin within it, as though this life I roam. Eternity is hard to ken, and harder still is this. A human life, when truly seen, is briefer than a kiss.
May we live with the humility and daring of the animals of the earth. May we live with the grace and the beauty of the creatures of the seas. May our spirits be light and free, so they too can soar like the birds of the sky. May we remember we are only fragments in the great circle of life. May we honor and protect the whole web of being. May we remember our unity with all life. Go and be blessed and be a blessing.